My name is Stephanie, and I'm 34 years old. 6 weeks ago, I lost my 6-year-old daughter Lily to a rare form of leukemia that took her far too quickly. During the worst time of my life, my sister Rachel rescheduled her housewarming party to the same day as Lily's funeral. When I begged her to change it, she told me Lily's death was just a minor event compared to her new house. Then our parents sided with her. If you're watching this, please let me know where you're from and hit subscribe to follow my journey through this betrayal. Growing up, Rachel and I were as close as sisters could be. Only 3 years apart, we shared a bedroom with twin beds adorned with matching floral comforters in our suburban Massachusetts home. I can still picture us building blanket forts on rainy Sundays, whispering secrets late into the night, and creating elaborate make-believe worlds where we ruled as benevolent queens. I taught Rachel how to ride a bike, braid her hair, and navigate the social complexities of elementary school. She looked up to me, and I felt protective of her. Everything changed when Rachel entered her teen years. It started subtly at first. When I made the honor roll in 10th grade, Rachel complained of a stomach ache during the family dinner celebration. When I was accepted into the school choir, Rachel suddenly developed an interest in singing and demanded private vocal lessons. These behaviors seemed innocent enough at first, but a pattern emerged that would define our relationship for years to come. My parents, Patricia and Thomas, rarely acknowledged this shift. Mom would say, "Rachel's just sensitive," while Dad would shrug it off with, "That's how siblings are." They consistently catered to Rachel's emotional outbursts, whether that meant cutting my celebrations short or redirecting family attention to whatever crisis Rachel was experiencing. The summer before my senior year, I won a prestigious writing contest. The award ceremony was scheduled for Saturday evening, and I was thrilled when my parents promised to attend. That morning, Rachel announced she had been invited to a last-minute pool party with a popular crowd. Instead of insisting she keep our family commitment, my parents decided to split up. Dad took me to the ceremony while Mom drove Rachel shopping for a new swimsuit and then to the party. What should have been a proud moment felt diminished, and I saw the disappointment in Dad's eyes when he kept checking his watch, clearly wishing he was elsewhere. When I left for college, I hoped the distance would heal our relationship. I chose State University, a 4-hour drive from home, where I pursued a nursing degree. Rachel stayed local for community college, remaining in our childhood home where she commanded our parents' full attention. During my first semester, I called home weekly, but conversations were invariably interrupted by Rachel's needs or her grabbing the phone to talk about herself. Everything changed when I met Michael during my sophomore year. He was studying computer science, and we met in the campus coffee shop when we both reached for the last blueberry muffin. Instead of competing for it, he suggested we split it and share a table. His kind eyes and genuine interest in my stories captivated me. For the first time, I experienced what it felt like to be truly heard. When I brought Michael home to meet my family during Thanksgiving break, Rachel immediately fixated on him. She wore her most flattering outfit to dinner, laughed too loudly at his jokes, and found excuses to touch his arm during conversation. Michael later confessed he found her behavior uncomfortable. My parents, predictably, thought Rachel was just being friendly. 2 years later, when Michael proposed after graduation, Rachel's reaction was immediate and dramatic. "But I'm supposed to get married first," she wailed at the family dinner where we announced our engagement. My parents spent the rest of the evening consoling her while Michael and I sat awkwardly with our cooling celebration meal and unopened champagne. Our wedding was a modest affair, planned around our entry-level salaries. Rachel, serving as a bridesmaid, complained about the color of her dress, the scheduling of the rehearsal dinner, and ultimately showed up to the ceremony with a noticeable hickey from a guy she'd met the night before. During the reception, she gave an unplanned speech about how she always took care of her big sister and how she couldn't believe Stephanie found someone before she did. My college roommate Kelsey smoothly took the microphone and redirected the moment, but the damage was done. After the wedding, Michael and I settled into a cozy apartment near the hospital where I worked as a pediatric nurse. Michael's software engineering career was taking off, and we saved diligently for a house. Rachel, meanwhile, cycled through retail jobs and dramatic relationships, calling me with each crisis, expecting immediate emotional support regardless of my work schedule. Despite the challenges with Rachel, my nursing career fulfilled me deeply. Working with children, witnessing their resilience through illness and injury, gave me purpose. Michael and I discussed starting our own family, waiting until we felt financially and emotionally ready. When we finally decided to try, we were blessed with a quick pregnancy. The day we told my parents about the baby, Rachel announced she had been promoted to assistant manager at the clothing boutique where she worked. As my parents fussed over Rachel's news, Michael squeezed my hand under the table, silently acknowledging the pattern we both recognized. Still, nothing could diminish the joy I felt growing inside me. Lily Grace was born on a snowy January morning after 26 hours of labor. When they placed her in my arms, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I experienced a love so powerful it brought tears to my eyes. Michael kissed my forehead, whispering, "You did it, Steph. She's perfect." My parents arrived with stuffed animals and teary smiles, and for a moment, everything felt right in the world. Rachel visited briefly 2 days later, complained about the hospital parking, and left early for a date. In those early days with Lily, I discovered a joy I had never known existed. The long nights and exhaustion of new parenthood were challenging, but filled with a deep sense of purpose. Michael proved to be an involved and tender father, often wearing Lily in a baby carrier while working from home, so I could nap. Our little family felt complete, and I dared to hope that motherhood might somehow reset my relationship with Rachel and my parents. Lily was a sunbeam in human form. From her earliest days, she possessed a calm curiosity about the world that drew people to her. Her first smile came early, lighting up her entire face and crinkling her nose in a way that made strangers stop us in the grocery store to comment on her joyfulness. By 6 months, her belly laughs filled our home whenever Michael made silly faces or I sang off-key renditions of nursery rhymes. As Lily grew, her personality blossomed. She loved animals, especially owls, collecting stuffed versions that lined her toddler bed. She had my brown curls but Michael's thoughtful blue eyes, often staring intently at bugs in the garden or clouds in the sky before asking surprisingly deep questions. "Mama, do butterflies remember being caterpillars?" "Daddy, why does the moon follow our car?" By age 4, Lily had developed a passion for stories. We visited the library weekly, where she charmed the librarians with her polite requests and genuine thank yous. Each night, she requested 3 stories and 2 songs, a bedtime ritual we never skipped, even on the most exhausting days. She would listen with complete focus, asking insightful questions about characters' motivations or predicting plot twists with uncanny accuracy. Lily started kindergarten with excitement, proudly wearing her owl backpack and light-up sneakers. Her teacher, Ms. Baker, quickly noted Lily's empathetic nature, telling us how she helped a crying classmate on the first day and regularly shared her crayons without being asked. Lily made friends easily, but showed special kindness to a boy with autism, patiently explaining games and sitting with him at lunch when others wouldn't. Rachel's involvement in Lily's life was sporadic at best. She forgot Lily's first birthday entirely, sending a text 3 days later with a casual, "Oops, happy belated birthday" to the kiddo. For Christmas, she gave Lily age-inappropriate makeup that had to be discreetly put away. During her infrequent visits, Rachel spent more time on her phone than engaging with her niece, despite Lily's eager attempts to show her drawings or demonstrate new skills. When Lily turned 2, we hosted a small birthday party at her home. Rachel unexpectedly brought a date, Brian, a real estate agent she'd been seeing for just 2 weeks. While the other adults helped serve cake or played with the toddlers, Rachel and Brian remained in a corner, drinking the adult beverages meant for after the children's party and loudly discussing luxury properties beyond anyone's budget in our social circle. To everyone's surprise, Brian and Rachel's relationship lasted. At Lily's kindergarten graduation, a simple ceremony where each child received a certificate and performed a song about the alphabet, Rachel arrived late and loudly. During the punch and cookies reception afterward, she thrust her left hand forward, showing off an engagement ring and effectively hijacking the event. "We just couldn't wait to tell everyone," she gushed, though she had already called my parents earlier that morning with the news. The wedding planning consumed the next year of family gatherings. Rachel appointed herself a non-traditional bride who needed maximum flexibility from everyone else. This translated to 6 changes of wedding date, 3 venue switches, and countless tearful phone calls about perceived slights from vendors. Despite my full-time nursing schedule and parenting responsibilities, my mother volunteered me to help with everything from addressing invitations to coordinating with out-of-town guests. "Your sister only gets married once," Mom said when I expressed concern about the time commitment. "You need to support her during this special time." The irony that my own wedding had received minimal attention from Rachel wasn't lost on me, but for family peace, I agreed to help within reasonable boundaries. The wedding was an elaborate affair at an expensive hotel, with Rachel and Brian entering to a fog machine and custom lighting sequence. During her speech, Rachel thanked everyone except Michael and me, despite the 30 hours I had spent assembling welcome bags and coordinating the rehearsal dinner. When Lily performed an adorable impromptu dance during the reception that guests recorded on their phones, Rachel asked the DJ to pause the music, announcing it was time for the official couple's activities, not random kid stuff. After the honeymoon, Rachel and Brian began house hunting in Lakeside Estates, a new development known for its country club membership and eye-watering property taxes. When they closed on a 4-bedroom colonial with a 3-car garage, Rachel called immediately. "It's really the smallest model in the neighborhood," she said, "but we figured we should start somewhere. You guys should see some of the real mansions on our street." They scheduled their housewarming for late August, sending elaborate printed invitations 3 months in advance. "We're going all out," Rachel told me during a rare lunch together. "Professional catering, signature cocktails, a string quartet for the garden. Brian says we need to establish ourselves in the neighborhood right away." When I mentioned that the date conflicted with Lily's first soccer game, Rachel waved dismissively. "She'll have plenty of those. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event." Despite Rachel's behavior, I continued trying to maintain family harmony. I sent birthday gifts, attended her housewarming planning sessions when asked, and made sure Lily made handmade cards for her aunt on holidays. Michael questioned my efforts occasionally, especially after particularly hurtful incidents, but understood my deep-seated hope for the sister relationship I'd always wanted. My parents continued enabling Rachel's self-centered approach to family relationships. When she canceled Christmas dinner 2 hours before because she received last-minute tickets to a holiday show, they rescheduled our entire family gathering to December 27th without complaint. When she forgot my father's 70th birthday entirely, they assured her it wasn't important and that they understood she was just so busy with the new house. It was against this backdrop of complex family dynamics that we first noticed something wasn't right with Lily. She had always been energetic, racing ahead of us on walks and chattering from morning until bedtime. But that spring, shortly after turning 6, she began asking to rest during playground visits. Her kindergarten teacher mentioned she had been putting her head down during story time. When bruises appeared on her arms and legs after minimal bumps, I scheduled a doctor's appointment, telling myself it was probably just a growth spurt or minor vitamin deficiency. The initial doctor's visit was supposed to be routine. I expected our family physician, Dr. Lawson, to recommend iron supplements or perhaps more protein in Lily's diet. Instead, after examining Lily's unusual bruising pattern and pale gums, she ordered blood tests immediately. "Just to rule things out," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I held Lily's hand as the nurse drew blood, Lily brave but tearful, clutching her favorite stuffed owl. 2 days later, Dr. Lawson called personally, asking us to come in that afternoon. Michael rearranged his work schedule, and we sat together in the small office as Dr. Lawson gently explained that Lily's blood work showed concerning abnormalities that required further testing. The word oncologist floated in the air like a toxic cloud. I remember nodding mechanically, while my mind screamed in denial. The pediatric oncology department at Children's Hospital became our second home.
Dr.
Elaine Porter, with her kind eyes and straightforward manner, performed a bone marrow biopsy while Michael and I waited, holding hands so tightly our knuckles turned white. The diagnosis came with terrible swiftness: acute myeloid leukemia, an aggressive form that would require immediate treatment. "But she was just playing soccer 2 weeks ago," I whispered, watching Lily through the window of her hospital room, where a child life specialist was showing her how the adjustable bed worked. Dr. Porter explained the treatment protocol with compassion but honesty. Intensive chemotherapy would begin immediately, followed by potential bone marrow transplantation, if necessary. The statistics she provided showed reasonable survival rates, but included words like aggressive variant and challenging prognosis that lodged in my heart like shards of glass. That first night in the hospital, after Lily finally fell asleep surrounded by monitors and 4 poles, I stepped into the hallway and called my parents. Mom answered, and I struggled through tears to explain the diagnosis. "Oh dear," she said, her voice distant. "That sounds serious. We're actually at Rachel's right now helping her pick paint colors for the guest room, but we'll try to visit this weekend." When I mentioned the gravity of the situation, Dad got on the phone to assure me that kids are resilient and modern medicine works wonders. I took an immediate leave of absence from the hospital where I worked. My supervisor, Janet, herself a mother of 3, processed the paperwork personally and organized a meal train among my colleagues. Michael continued working remotely whenever possible, his company allowing flexibility, given the circumstances. He spent nights at the hospital on a narrow cot, then worked from Lily's room during treatment days, balancing his laptop on the windowsill as Lily napped. Rachel visited once during the first 3 weeks of Lily's hospitalization. She arrived wearing strong perfume despite the oncology ward guidelines, carrying a large balloon bouquet that took up precious space in the small room. She stayed for 20 minutes, most of which she spent taking photos for social media, including several of herself looking concerned beside Lily's bed. Before leaving, she complained about the hospital parking fees and mentioned that the flowers in the gift shop were ridiculously overpriced. The chemotherapy ravaged Lily's small body. Her beautiful curls fell out in clumps, which we collected in a special box for a keepsake pillow. She endured fevers, mouth sores, and nausea with a courage that humbled me. During brief periods of energy between treatments, she colored pictures for her nurses and told elaborate stories about her stuffed animals having their own hospital adventures. My colleague Amanda from Pediatrics visited regularly, bringing appropriate gifts like soft blankets and gentle lotions safe for Lily's sensitive skin. She sat with Lily so Michael and I could occasionally have a meal together in the cafeteria or step outside for fresh air. Amanda listened without judgment when I broke down in the family lounge after particularly difficult days, offering practical support rather than empty platitudes. My parents visited occasionally, always with excuses about why they couldn't stay long. Dad seemed genuinely moved by Lily's condition but appeared overwhelmed by the medical environment. Mom spent most visits talking about Rachel and Brian's house renovations or community events we were missing, as if maintaining a pretense of normal life would somehow make Lily's illness less real. Experimental protocols were discussed, but each came with devastating side effects and increasingly slim chances of success. I'll never forget the day Dr. Porter sat with us in the small consultation room, her usual composed demeanor cracking slightly as she explained that Lily's condition had become terminal. "We can continue fighting," she said gently, "but I'm concerned about quality versus quantity of life at this point." Michael's sob broke the silence that followed, a raw sound of parental anguish that still echoes in my nightmares. When we asked about time, Dr. Porter spoke honestly. "Weeks, possibly a month or 2 with continued intervention. Days without." The world collapsed around those words, time suddenly becoming both infinitely precious and cruelly limited. That night, Michael and I had the hardest conversation of our lives, sitting on the floor of the hospital shower, where the sound of running water would mask our breakdown from Lily's room. We decided to prioritize Lily's comfort and dignity, to focus on making whatever time remained as peaceful and pain-free as possible. We would take her home with hospice support, fulfilling her repeated wish to sleep in her own bed with her owl collection. The transition to home hospice care happened with surprising efficiency. Dr. Porter expedited the paperwork, and the pediatric hospice team transformed our living room into a comfortable medical space with a hospital bed position to see both the television and the backyard bird feeder that Lily loved to watch. Nancy, our primary hospice nurse, trained us in medication administration and symptom management with patience and sensitivity. Those final weeks contained moments of both unimaginable pain and unexpected beauty. Lily's physical decline was rapid, but her spirit remained undimmed. On good days, we read her favorite stories, built small Lego sets that friends had sent, and watched nature documentaries about owls. When her energy allowed, Michael carried her to the backyard where we had set up a comfortable recliner under the maple tree, wrapping her in soft blankets as we pointed out shapes in the clouds. Friends organized a drive-by parade one sunny afternoon, with Lily's kindergarten classmates holding handmade signs from car windows. Her teacher, Ms. Baker, personally delivered letters from each student along with a class stuffed animal mascot, Wellington the bear, who needed Lily's special care. These gestures of community support sustained us through dark moments. Lily's awareness of her condition ebbed and flowed. She asked questions that broke our hearts. Will I be able to go back to school for first grade? Can we go to the beach when I feel better? We answered honestly but gently, following the hospice counselor's guidance about age-appropriate discussions of death. When Lily eventually asked directly if she was going to die, I held her small hand and confirmed that her body was very sick and would stop working soon. But being dead doesn't mean being gone, I told her through tears. You'll always be in our hearts and memories. Like stars, she whispered, referencing a book we had read about grief. You can't always see them, but they're still there. Her wisdom at 6 years old humbled me completely. My parents visited twice during hospice care, each time staying less than an hour and appearing visibly uncomfortable with Lily's changed appearance and the medical equipment. They brought inappropriate gifts, a bike helmet, summer sandals, items Lily would never use. I accepted them graciously, understanding their inability to face reality as its own form of grief. Rachel didn't visit at all, sending a generic get-well-soon card that arrived the day after a particularly difficult night when Lily had struggled to breathe comfortably before new medications were adjusted. The card's cheerful cartoon animals and message about bouncing back soon demonstrated such profound disconnect from our reality that I placed it directly in the recycling bin without showing Michael. One rainy Thursday morning, after a relatively peaceful night, Lily's breathing pattern changed subtly. Nancy had prepared us for the signs, and we recognized immediately what was happening. Michael called my parents while I crawled into the hospital bed beside Lily, holding her gently and telling her how much we loved her, how proud we were to be her parents, and that it was okay to let go when she was ready. Lily died in my arms at 2:17 p.m., Michael holding her hand, her favorite soft blanket tucked around her. In her final moments, a brief smile crossed her face, and she whispered something that sounded like, "All stars," before taking her last breath. The house fell into a silence, so profound it seemed to have physical weight. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of necessary arrangements. The funeral home director, James, guided us through decisions with compassion, never rushing us despite our foggy responses. We chose a small white casket, a private viewing, and a public memorial service where Lily's friends and our community could celebrate her life. We selected her favorite yellow dress, her stuffed doll Spencer, and a family photo to accompany her. Each decision felt simultaneously crucial and impossible. On Friday evening, as Michael and I sat surrounded by sympathy cards at our kitchen table, my phone rang. Rachel's name appeared on the screen, the first contact since her inappropriate card. I answered, expecting perhaps a belated condolence. "Stephanie, great news." Rachel's voice bubbled through the speaker, so disconnected from my reality that for a moment I wondered if I was hallucinating. "Our custom sectional sofa is being delivered early. We can finally have our housewarming next Saturday instead of waiting until the end of the month." The world tilted sideways as I processed her words. "Rachel, I said slowly. Lily died yesterday. We've scheduled her funeral for next Saturday. The silence lasted only seconds before Rachel continued. Oh, I know, and I'm very sorry about that, she said, her tone dropping momentarily before rebounding. But we've already had to reschedule this party twice because of delivery delays. All the invitations are sent. The caterer is confirmed. We can't possibly change it now. You're scheduling your housewarming party on the day of Lily's funeral? I asked, my voice barely a whisper as Michael looked up sharply from across the table. Look, it's unfortunate timing, but these things happen, Rachel replied with audible impatience. People can attend both if they want to. Your thing is in the morning, right? Our party starts at 3. My thing? The numbness that had enveloped me since Lily's death began to crack, allowing white-hot anger to seep through. My daughter's funeral is not a thing, Rachel. It's the worst day of my life. Don't be so dramatic, Stephanie. It's sad, obviously, but it's a minor event compared to establishing ourselves in this neighborhood. These people are important connections for Brian's real estate business. Do you know how long we've been planning this? Michael took the phone from my shaking hand. Rachel, this is Michael. Never call this number again. He ended the call and pulled me into his arms as I finally shattered completely, my sobs echoing through our too-quiet house. After Rachel's devastating call, Michael held me until my tears subsided into hollow exhaustion. He made tea neither of us would drink and called Amanda, who arrived within 30 minutes bearing groceries and practical support. She took over communication with the funeral home while Michael contacted our workplaces to extend our leave. I need to call my parents, I finally said, my voice rough from crying. They need to know what Rachel said. They'll set her straight. Despite everything, some childish part of me still believed my parents would step up when it truly mattered. I called them on speakerphone, Michael beside me for support. After explaining Rachel's decision and her horrific, minor event comment, I waited for their shocked response, their promises to intervene. The silence stretched for several seconds before my father cleared his throat. Well, honey, these things happen, he said hesitantly. Scheduling conflicts are part of life. Scheduling conflicts? I repeated incredulously. Dad, she deliberately changed her party date to Lily's funeral day, after knowing when it was scheduled. My mother interjected, her voice taking on the placating tone I'd heard throughout my childhood when Rachel's behavior needed justification. Stephanie, you have to understand. Rachel and Brian have already sent out all their invitations. People are coming from Brian's office, potential clients. They've hired caterers with non-refundable deposits. And my daughter is dead, I stated flatly. My 6-year-old child died in my arms, and we're burying her on Saturday. Of course, and that's very sad, Mom continued, her voice simultaneously sympathetic and dismissive. But life goes on, dear. Rachel has put so much work into this party. Surely you don't expect everyone's lives to stop completely? The cruel irony of her words, life goes on, when Lily's had so definitively ended, struck me like a physical blow. I expect my family to be at my child's funeral, I managed to say. Not at a housewarming party. Dad sighed heavily. We'll try to make it to both, of course. The funeral is just an hour, right? We can pay our respects and still make it to Rachel's in time for the main event. The main event, I echoed, meeting Michael's horrified gaze. You actually think Rachel's party is the main event on the day we bury your granddaughter? Now, Stephanie, Mom chided, you're twisting our words. We're just trying to be fair to both our daughters. Fair. The word tasted like poison.
Lily is dead.
There is nothing fair about any of this. Grief is making you selfish, Mom replied sharply. Rachel has important reasons for keeping her date. You need to respect that. Michael took the phone, his voice controlled but cold. Patricia, Thomas, let me be perfectly clear. You have a choice to make. You can attend your granddaughter's funeral and support your daughter through the worst pain imaginable, or you can go to a party. Whatever you decide will permanently define your relationship with us going forward. He ended the call before they could respond, pulling me close as fresh tears came. I'm so sorry, Steph, he whispered against my hair. I'm so incredibly sorry. The next day brought another shock as relatives began calling with awkward condolences that invariably included explanations of why they couldn't attend Lily's funeral. My Aunt Deborah mentioned a prior commitment before Rachel's Facebook post about her exclusive neighborhood gathering appeared in my feed. Uncle Robert cited the distance to travel for just a service, while confirming he'd be staying with my parents for the weekend. Cousins I'd grown up with sent text messages with transparent excuses. Not everyone chose Rachel's side. My maternal grandfather Harold called to confirm he would attend the funeral, his voice cracking as he spoke about Lily. "Some things are sacred," he said firmly. "Family should know that." My childhood friend Kelsey immediately booked a flight from Chicago, offering to help with any funeral arrangements. Still, the dividing lines within our extended family became painfully clear. People I had believed would stand by us during our darkest hour were choosing an elaborate party over honoring Lily's life. Each call or message drove the betrayal deeper, compounding our grief with isolation. Amanda, witnessing our growing despair, took charge of funeral logistics. She coordinated with the church, arranged for flowers, and helped design the memorial program featuring Lily's artwork and favorite quotes from her books. Michael's parents, who lived in Arizona, arrived 3 days before the funeral, filling our refrigerator with prepared meals and handling phone calls when we couldn't face another conversation. The night before the funeral, I sat in Lily's room, surrounded by her stuffed owls and half-finished art projects. How could a life so vibrant, so full of potential, be reduced to a 2-hour service that my own family deemed skippable? The injustice burned alongside my grief, twin flames consuming whatever naive faith I'd maintained in family loyalty. My phone chimed with a text from Rachel. "FYI, we're setting up valet parking for tomorrow, so tell your funeral people not to park on our street if they're coming to both events." I stared at the message, unable to process the staggering selfishness it represented, before deleting it without response. Michael found me there, sitting cross-legged on Lily's rainbow rug, clutching her favorite book. Without a word, he joined me on the floor, his back against her bed, and opened his arms. We stayed there until sunrise, sometimes crying, sometimes sharing memories of Lily's laugh or the way she pronounced spaghetti as paschetti, finding momentary comfort in our shared love for our daughter. Morning arrived with gentle June sunshine that seemed an affront to our mourning. As we dressed in the dark clothes we'd never imagined owning, Michael paused while adjusting his tie. "Whatever happens today," he said, meeting my eyes in the mirror, "we honor Lily. Nothing else matters. No one else matters." I nodded, drawing strength from his resolve. "Just us. Our daughter. Our love." He kissed my forehead. "Always." The morning of Lily's funeral dawned with inappropriate beauty, clear blue skies, birdsong, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of early summer flowers. I stood at our bedroom window, watching a pair of cardinals that the feeder Lily had helped fill just weeks earlier, and felt the cruel disconnect between nature's continuity and our shattered world. Dressing for my daughter's funeral involved surreal decisions no parent should face. I chose a navy dress Lily had once called pretty like the night sky, adding the owl-shaped brooch she had given me for Mother's Day. Michael wore the tie Lily had selected for him last Father's Day, its whimsical pattern of dinosaurs wearing bow ties hidden beneath his somber suit jacket, our private connection to her playful spirit. Amanda arrived early, bringing coffee and quiet support. She drove us to the funeral home for the private viewing, standing respectfully aside as Michael and I spent our final moments with Lily's physical form. She looked peaceful in her favorite yellow dress, Spencer the owl tucked beside her. But the stillness was wrong. Lily had always been in motion, vibrating with curiosity and joy. I tucked a letter I had written between her small hands, promises of eternal love sealed away from the world. At the church, people gathered despite the competing event across town. Lily's kindergarten class came with handmade cards, their small faces solemn with a gravity they couldn't fully comprehend. Hospital staff who had cared for Lily arrived in groups, Dr. Porter among them, her professional composure softened by genuine grief. Neighbors, colleagues, and friends filled the pews, creating the supportive community my biological family had failed to provide. My parents arrived 5 minutes before the service began, dressed formally, but with a distracted air that suggested their thoughts were elsewhere. They sat in the reserved family section without meeting my eyes, my father checking his watch twice before the minister even began speaking. My grandfather Harold sat beside them, his weathered face creased with sorrow and, when he glanced at his son, unmistakable disappointment. Rachel and Brian were conspicuously absent, as were most of our extended family. The empty spaces in the family pews spoke volumes, their silence more hurtful than any words could have been. Michael's parents sat directly behind us, his mother occasionally squeezing my shoulder in quiet support. The service itself became a beautiful tribute to Lily's brief but luminous life. The minister spoke of childhood's sacred innocence and the profound impact Lily had made on her community. Ms. Baker, Lily's kindergarten teacher, read a poem about stars that had been Lily's favorite. Michael's father, a talented amateur musician, played a gentle guitar rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow that left no eye dry. When my turn came to deliver Lily's eulogy, I approached the podium with Michael beside me, his hand steady against my back. I had written and rewritten the speech dozens of times, struggling to distill 6 extraordinary years into meaningful words. Looking out at the gathered faces, some familiar, some known only through Lily's stories, I felt a sudden calm clarity. Lily taught me that love isn't measured in years. I began, my voice surprisingly steady. It's measured in moments. In popsicle-stained smiles and midnight cuddles after bad dreams. In dandelion bouquets and scientific questions I couldn't answer. My daughter lived exactly 2,234 days, and she filled each one with more wonder, kindness, and joy than many experience in decades. I shared stories of Lily's compassion, how she insisted on saving half her Halloween candy for children at the hospital, how she once gave her new mittens to a classmate who had lost theirs, how she whispered encouragement to frightened children in waiting rooms. I spoke of her curiosity, her creativity, and her infectious laugh that could dissolve tension in any room. Lily's last coherent words were, "All stars," I concluded, tears finally breaking through my composure. A reference to a book we read about how loved ones become stars when they leave us. Tonight, and every night forward, I'll look for the brightest star in the sky and know my daughter is watching over us, her light undimmed by death. I promise you, my sweet Lily, we will never stop loving you, never stop honoring your life, and never stop trying to be the kind of people who deserve to have been your parents. Michael supported me back to our seat as Amanda stepped forward to read the closing poem. Through my tears, I noticed my parents glancing at each other, my father nodding slightly before they discreetly stood and slipped out a side door before the service concluded. The message was unmistakable. Rachel's party took priority even over the final moments of their granddaughter's memorial. After the service, a small reception followed in the church hall. People shared memories of Lily many I had known, how she had helped a lost child find the school office, how she always saved bread crusts to feed ducks at the park, how she had once noticed a cafeteria worker looking sad and drawn her a picture that the woman still kept at her register. Each story was a precious gift, expanding the tapestry of Lily's impact beyond my own experiences. Michael's mother Martha approached with her phone, her expression troubled. "I thought you should see this," she said quietly, showing me Rachel's Instagram account. There, posted during our daughter's funeral, were photos of elaborate floral arrangements and catering displays with the caption, "Finally welcoming the neighborhood elite to our dream home. #new beginnings, #living our best life." A second post showed my parents arriving at her house, champagne glasses in hand, with the caption, "Family always shows up for what matters. #priorities, #family first." The mockery of those hashtags, family first priorities, alongside images of my parents celebrating while Lily's funeral concluded, sent a shockwave of clarity through my grief. This wasn't a misunderstanding or poor timing. This was deliberate cruelty, a final statement that my daughter's death was indeed considered a minor event by those who should have cared most. That evening, exhausted beyond words, Michael and I returned to our too-quiet home. Friends had cleaned while we were at the funeral, removing medical equipment but thoughtfully preserving Lily's personal touches, her artwork on the refrigerator, her shoes by the door, her unfinished craft project on the coffee table. The house felt suspended between what had been and what would never be. Around 8 o'clock, my phone rang, my parents calling. I answered on speakerphone, Michael beside me on the couch. We wanted to check in. My mother began without preamble. The service was very nice. Thank you for attending part of it, I replied, too drained for anger. Now, Stephanie, my father interjected. We had commitments. Rachel's party was a huge success, by the way. Brian made some important contacts. You would have enjoyed it if you'd come after the service, like we suggested. The casual cruelty of his words broke whatever restraint I had maintained. My daughter was buried today, I said, my voice shaking. I watched them lower her casket into the ground while you were eating canapes and networking. That's not fair, my mother protested. We paid our respects. Life has to continue. Rachel needed our support too. Rachel rescheduled her party specifically to conflict with Lily's funeral, Michael interjected. After knowing the date, she called Lily's death a minor event. And you chose her side. We didn't choose sides, Dad insisted. We attended both events. We're trying to be fair to both our daughters. Fair, I repeated, the word catching in my throat. My child is dead. Rachel wanted to show off her sofa. There is no equivalence here, Dad. Well, when you've calmed down and stopped being so melodramatic, we should all get together, Mom said dismissively. Rachel mentioned having you over for dinner next week to smooth things over. Something final broke inside me then, not with a crash but with a quiet, irreversible click. No, I said simply. That won't be happening. What do you mean, no? Dad demanded. I mean no. I won't be pretending this didn't happen. I won't be smoothing things over. You made your choice today, and it wasn't Lily. It wasn't me. Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned. You're being ridiculous, Mom snapped. This is family. You don't just cut off family. Family shows up, I replied, surprising myself with my calm certainty. Family honors what matters. Family doesn't call a child's death a minor event. You're my relatives, but today proved you're not my family. I ended the call as they began to protest, turning to Michael with tears streaming down my face. Did I just do that? Did I just cut off my parents? He pulled me close, his own eyes wet. You set a boundary they forced you to draw. You honored Lily. You protected yourself. I'm so proud of you, Steph. The days that followed passed in a fog of grief. I moved through necessary tasks like a sleepwalker, thanking people for flowers, returning casseroles with empty containers, filing death certificates, and closing Lily's college fund account. Each administrative task related to her death felt like a fresh wound, another acknowledgement that she was truly gone. My phone accumulated texts and voicemails from my parents, alternating between guilt trips and angry accusations. Rachel sent a single message. Way to make everyone uncomfortable with your dramatics. Mom and Dad are really upset with how ungrateful you're being. I deleted them all without responding, following the advice of Dr. Emily Sanders, the grief counselor recommended by the funeral director. During our first session, she validated the compound loss I was experiencing, both Lily's death and the family betrayal. Sometimes grief reveals the true nature of relationships, she explained gently. What you're feeling, the anger, the shock, the sense of abandonment, these are all natural responses to the secondary loss you've experienced. Your family failed you at your moment of greatest need. That's a profound betrayal that deserves to be acknowledged. Through those early weeks, Michael and I clung to each other, our shared grief both connecting and isolating us. Some nights we sat silently in Lily's room, unable to speak but comforted by each other's presence. Other nights we talked until dawn, sharing memories of Lily that we feared forgetting. We watched videos of her on our phones, her laughter simultaneously healing and heartbreaking. Amanda continued checking in regularly, bringing groceries and sometimes simply sitting with us when we couldn't face the outside world. Michael's parents extended their stay for 2 weeks, handling practical matters and creating space for our grief. His mother, Martha, kept a particular eye on eating, gently ensuring we maintained some basic nutrition despite having no appetite. A month after the funeral, I received an email from the funeral director, James, mentioning a support group for bereaved parents that met at the community center. Many find comfort in sharing with others who truly understand, he wrote. No pressure, but the door is always open. I saved the information. Not yet ready, but grateful for the resource. Gradually, painfully, we began establishing a new normal, one defined by Lily's absence, but still connected to her memory. I returned to the grief counselor weekly, sometimes with Michael, sometimes alone. We learned that grief doesn't follow a linear path, that healing isn't about getting over the loss, but about integrating it into a life that continues. 6 months after Lily's death, winter settled over our neighborhood, bringing holidays we dreaded facing without her. Thanksgiving loomed first, traditionally spent with my parents or Rachel hosting. This year, Michael suggested a complete departure from tradition. Let's volunteer at the homeless shelter, he proposed. Lily always wanted to help there. The days spent serving others became unexpectedly healing, our focus on giving rather than our own loss, creating space for gratitude alongside grief. For Christmas, we established new traditions honoring Lily's memory. We donated toys to the pediatric oncology ward in her name. We hung a special ornament with her photo on our tree and left her stocking up, filling it with notes about memories and moments when we'd felt her presence throughout the year. On Christmas morning, we read these notes together, crying and laughing at the bittersweet remembrances. My parents sent a Christmas card and gifts, which arrived without warning. The card contained a generic holiday message with a handwritten note, time to put the past behind us and move forward as a family. The gifts for Michael and me were expensive, but impersonal, luxury brands without personal significance. No mention of Lily, no acknowledgement of our first Christmas without her. After brief discussion, we donated the items to the hospital fundraiser and filed the card away without responding. In January, we created a small memorial garden in our backyard where Lily had loved to play. We planted bulbs that would bloom around her birthday, daffodils, tulips, and her favorite purple crocuses. Michael built a small bench where we could sit among the growing things, a peaceful spot for reflection. Each weekend, we added something new, a wind chime, a bird feeder, a stone painted with one of Lily's favorite sayings. I returned to work part-time in February, finding unexpected comfort in caring for other children. My colleagues welcomed me back with sensitivity, neither avoiding mentions of Lily nor treating me with the awkward pity I dreaded. Janet, my supervisor, created a flexible schedule that allowed me to continue therapy and take mental health days when grief overwhelmed me. In early spring, an email arrived from Rachel, its subject line, family healing, promising reconciliation but delivering more of the same. I think you've had enough time to process everything, she wrote. Mom and Dad are really hurt that you've shut them out, and honestly, so am I. We're family, and families forgive each other. My housewarming was important to me, and while the timing was unfortunate, continuing to punish everyone is just selfish. No apology. No acknowledgement of calling Lily's death a minor event. No recognition of the pain her choices had caused. Just expectations that I would set aside my punishment and return to the dysfunctional dynamic that had always prioritized her needs above all else. After showing Michael the email, I drafted a response that took 3 days and multiple revisions to complete. I wanted clarity without cruelty, boundaries without burning the possibility of future healing if genuine change occurred. Rachel, I wrote finally, thank you for reaching out. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting myself during the most painful experience of my life. When you rescheduled your party to the day of Lily's funeral and called her death a minor event, you communicated clearly how little you valued my daughter and my grief. When our parents chose your party over staying for their granddaughter's entire funeral, they made their priorities equally clear. I'm working hard to heal and rebuild my life after losing Lily. That process requires me to surround myself with people who respect my loss and support my healing. Currently, you and our parents have shown no understanding of the harm caused, offered no genuine apologies, and demonstrated no change in behavior. Until that happens, I need to maintain distance for my well-being. I wish you happiness in your new home and success in your life. I remain open to authentic reconciliation if it becomes possible in the future, but that would require acknowledgement of what happened and why it was deeply hurtful. Take care, Stephanie. I sent it without expectations, understanding that Rachel's response, or lack thereof, would reveal whether any real relationship remained possible. She never replied. The confrontation with my parents came a month later when they appeared unannounced at our door on a Sunday afternoon. I answered to find them standing on the porch, my mother holding a gift bag with tissue paper peeking out. Enough is enough, my father announced without greeting. This has gone on too long. We're family, and we're here to put this behind us. I didn't invite them in, maintaining my position in the doorway. Have you come to acknowledge what happened? To apologize for leaving Lily's funeral early for Rachel's party. We've been over this, Mom said impatiently. We attended both events. We're not choosing sides. Leaving your granddaughter's funeral early was choosing sides, I replied quietly. Celebrating while we buried her was choosing sides. For God's sake, Stephanie, Dad exploded. It's been months. Lily wouldn't want you holding a grudge like this. The mention of my daughter's name in this context, as emotional leverage, sparked a cold clarity. Don't you dare tell me what my daughter would want, I said, my voice steady. You barely knew her. You visited her twice during her illness. You left her funeral early. You don't get to use her name to manipulate me now. We're your parents, Mom insisted, thrusting the gift bag forward. You don't just cut off your parents. Being parents means showing up when it matters most, I replied. It means putting your child's devastating loss above a social event. It means staying for your granddaughter's entire funeral. You made your choice 6 months ago. I'm making mine now. I closed the door gently but firmly, leaning against it as their protests continued briefly before I heard them retreat to their car. Michael emerged from the kitchen where he had been giving me space for the confrontation, wrapping me in a silent embrace as I processed the mixture of grief and relief flooding through me. That evening, I finally contacted the support group James had recommended. The following Tuesday, Michael and I sat nervously in uncomfortable folding chairs as other parents who had experienced the unimaginable loss of a child welcomed us with understanding that required no explanations. There we met Sarah and David, whose 10-year-old son had died of cancer 2 years earlier. Something in Sarah's quiet strength resonated with me immediately. After the meeting, she invited us for coffee, and a friendship slowly developed that became a lifeline for both couples. They understood the empty bedroom we couldn't bear to change, the anniversaries that ambushed us with grief, the well-meaning but painful comments from strangers asking if we had children. On the first anniversary of Lily's death, we hosted a small remembrance gathering in the memorial garden, which had flourished into a beautiful, peaceful space. Amanda came with homemade cookies using Lily's favorite recipe. Michael's parents flew in, bringing a hand-carved wooden owl to add to the garden. Sarah and David arrived with thoughtful support, having navigated this milestone before us. A few colleagues, neighbors, and other parents from our support group completed the circle. We shared stories about Lily, released biodegradable lanterns into the evening sky, and planted a young cherry tree that would blossom each spring around her birthday. The day held profound sadness, but also a gentler kind of remembrance than the raw agony of the funeral. Lily's life, not just her death, took center stage in our memories and stories. That summer, we established a small scholarship in Lily's name at her elementary school, awarded annually to a student who demonstrated the kindness and curiosity that had defined our daughter. Fundraising for the scholarship connected us with the community in meaningful ways, creating purpose from our pain. At the first award ceremony, watching a bright-eyed first grader receive the certificate, I felt Lily's presence more strongly than I had since her death, not as a ghost, but as a continuing influence on the world she had left too soon. Healing from the dual losses, Lily's death and my family's betrayal progressed unevenly but steadily. Some days still brought me to my knees with grief. Other days carried moments of unexpected joy that no longer triggered guilt. Michael and I grew closer through our shared experience, our communication deeper and more authentic than before. I learned that setting boundaries with toxic family members wasn't selfish, but necessary for survival. The family I had been born into had failed me at my moment of greatest need, but the family we created through friendship and shared experience supported me with unwavering presence. Amanda, Sarah, and David, our support group, Michael's parents, and others formed a chosen family bound by love rather than obligation. 2 years after Lily's death, I received a brief email from my grandfather Harold, informing me that he had removed my parents from his will after their behavior at Lily's funeral, instead establishing a trust for pediatric cancer research in Lily's name. "Some things are sacred," he wrote, echoing his words from that day. "I want you to know that not everyone in the family misunderstood that." He passed away peacefully 3 months later, the last connection to my biological family severed, but with his final act speaking volumes about true family values. Today, as I look back on our journey through grief, I recognize how profoundly Lily changed us, first through her life and then through her death. Her 6 years taught us more about love, joy, and courage than many learn in decades. Her absence taught us about resilience, boundaries, and the family we choose rather than the family we're given. In our garden, Lily's memorial bench now bears a small plaque with words from her favorite book, "Love is the only thing that grows when shared." Despite everything, the loss, the betrayal, the painful boundaries, this truth remains. The love we shared with Lily continues growing, touching lives through scholarships, through volunteering, through the ways we've learned to live with greater compassion and authenticity. I still miss my daughter every day. I still wonder who she would have become. But alongside that grief lives a profound gratitude for having been her mother, for the gift of her bright spirit in our lives, and for the wisdom her short life imparted. In honoring her memory by living with integrity and love, we ensure that Lily's light continues shining in a world that was immeasurably blessed by her brief presence. Have you ever had to cut ties with family members who betrayed your trust during a crisis? How did you handle rebuilding your life afterward? Please share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, sometimes the family we choose becomes more important than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you strength if you're facing similar challenges in your own life.